Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video. We're going to talk about Doctor Who. We're going to talk about mainstream media catching on that Doctor Who is broken. They're admitting that Doctor Who is broken and that even though Russell T Davies has returned to the TARDIS, there's no fixing this show. It seems like he's actually going to double down on a lot of the issues that have caused Doctor Who to decline in the eyes of fans. I'm putting it mildly. Like, it's dropped off a damn cliff. This show is dead, and apparently the only reason they brought it back at all was because Disney was going to help co-finance it. That's what I heard, because it was very expensive to produce. And look, the show, the David Tennant episodes, they looked pretty good, but they were not that great. They really weren't that great. And a lot of people are turning on Doctor Who now anyway, in part because of the bi generation. That's an issue for a lot of people because they're like, hey, yeah, we get to keep David Tennant as a spare, and we've got Ncuti Gatwa. Is he actually the Doctor, or is it going to be like Miles Morales and Peter Parker, where we've got two doctors, but we've got the Doctor in vanilla and chocolate? You know, you pick your flavor of Doctor, you know, and that's kind of insulting to Ncuti Gatwa because he does not get to be his own Doctor. Now, I'm going to be honest, Doctor Who was for years one of my favorite shows, and I do not care about this show at all anymore. I feel the same way about Doctor Who that I feel about Star Wars, where you get to a point where it's not even worth caring anymore because you know you're going to get your heart broken. It's like having a troubled family member or whatever. It's like constantly in and out of trouble. I mentioned this in the last video too, and not that there's anything going on in my family, but I'm just saying you get to a point where it's like, yeah, you know, I just have to kind of harden my heart a little bit and not care so much anymore, and realize that to the corporations that make these shows and movies and comic books or whatever, it's just product to them. In fact, you're going to care more about this stuff, I think, than the people who make it do. And I think we're seeing this in real time with George Lucas and him supposedly backing Disney after Disney knifed him in the back, you know, with the sequel trilogy and, you know, some of the stuff going on with Star Wars, that he's pretty much detached himself, I think, from it, that he realizes he made his movies, he created a product, an IP that he sold. And when you sell it to somebody else that doesn't care as much, you get what you get. Well, in the case of Doctor Who, you know, we've got the BBC involved, we've got Disney involved, we have Russell T Davies back, but he's not the same Russell T Davies that he was when he left. And in fact, he seems to go out of his way to antagonize fans now, and that's just kind of who he is. I just don't care anymore, you know, and it's easier that way. It's easier to get to a point where you just don't care anymore, because it is going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be corporate product. Sometimes it's going to be good. Sometimes it's going to be bad. You watch the good stuff, you ignore the bad stuff. I personally have not been impressed with the David Tennant episodes, even though that would have been like my dream team 10 years ago. If you told me that, you know, Russell T Davies was coming back and Catherine Tate and David Tennant were coming back, I'd be like, oh my God, that's like the best news ever. And it turned out it really wasn't. You can never go home again, right? So anyway, we're going to talk about mainstream media, and they're turning on Doctor Who. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't look like Russell T Davies is going to fix anything that happened during the Chibnall era. And the Chibnall era, of course, infamously gave us The Timeless Child, which tried to explain the origin of the Doctor, and plot twist, they retconned the Doctor's origin, and the Doctor is not even a Time Lord anymore. And that was a huge, divisive, big, massive fuck up. I mean, that's basically the best way I can put it. That was a big ass fuck up. And yeah, so whatever damage was done, just because the Chibnall era was ham-fistedly political and boring as hell, and also, you know, we had a female Doctor, and a lot of people weren't even going to give that a chance, regardless of, you know, who was playing her. You know, retconning it was the moment. I'm like, you know what? I'm out. Why should I care about any episode of Doctor Who prior to this? Because there are no stakes, because apparently the Doctor can't die. The Doctor's not from Gallifrey. 50, 60 years of lies. I don't care. And now the mainstream media is calling it out too, which is kind of funny. So we'll talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, no woohoos. No woohoos. She's not here. She doesn't care. And I don't care either. But I think it's funny. I just think it's funny that we were demonized, that fans were demonized for years because we were complaining about Chibnall's retcons. And it was all, they tried to distill it down to, you just don't like women in the TARDIS. And you just don't like, no. I actually was willing to give Jodie Whittaker a chance, and I think Jodie Whittaker is an okay actress. I just don't think she worked for the Doctor. And I think what she was given was garbage. I don't think she had very good scripts. I think that, they obviously were trying to cut the budget. They were obviously trying to get away from the classic monsters in the first season of hers, which was a huge mistake. And then the unforgivable sin of tying her to this god-awful retcon. Like, of all the showrunners before you, Chris Chibnall, why did you think you were the one who could give the definitive origin of the Doctor? Why did you think it was your manifest destiny to be able to do that? You're literally the least qualified person, to give the origin of the Doctor. In fact, Stephen Moffat got close to that for the 50th, and he walked it back and was basically like, yeah, the Doctor's name should never be uttered. The Doctor's origin should never be revealed. He's coming back to do an episode, too, which is interesting because he was kind of throwing shade at the direction of Doctor Who, if I remember correctly. But yeah, let's go out to this article on Screen Rant. Doctor Who's Season 14 release plans repeats past mistakes, disregarding tradition. Oh my God, look at all these ads, guys. Disregarding tradition for a worldwide simultaneous release, introducing by generation, is reminiscent of the timeless child repeating another mistake. Russell T Davies' return may not fix all issues in Doctor Who. It's not going to fix any. I think it's going to cause more problems. This is not the same Russell T Davies who brought the show back in 2005, 2006. He's a different person now. And he seems like he's a lot more combative now than he was. Doctor Who's new problems look very much like its old problems, according to Screen Rant, as Season 14's release plan hints at repeating the mistakes that hurt Chris Chibnall's era. Following the less enthusiastic response to Seasons 11, 12, and Flux, Russell T Davies was brought back to replace Chibnall as Doctor Who showrunner, the hope being he would weave the same magic that made 2005's modern relaunch such a monumental success. After the trio of 60th anniversary episodes and a Christmas special, Season 14 is going to kick off that proper new era, and I think it's going to be a disaster. I think it's going to be a disaster. I think we're going to get 2 seasons. Disney will bankroll 2 seasons or co-finance 2 seasons, and then they're going to be out because they're going to be like, it's not working for us, guys. There's already plenty to be excited about with Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor. Is he really? Or is he like 14 and a half? Bringing a warehouse full of charisma to the TARDIS, and the 4 Russell T Davies 2 eras airing thus far. God, look at all these ads. And yeah, before you say put the ad blockers on, it doesn't matter. Put the ad blockers on and they still come through. They've gotten smart, guys. They've gotten smart. On the other hand, Doctor Who is already showing red flags that indicate lessons have not been learned from the mistakes of the Chibnall reign. Season 14's plan includes one such red flag, with Doctor Who's upcoming run confirmed for a simultaneous worldwide release on Disney Plus and on iPlayer. So the release schedule for Doctor Who Season 14 is understandably causing controversy with the show's British audience. So yeah, they're saying that it's going to land at a perfectly reasonable 7 p.m. Friday time in the US, but it's going to be like midnight on Saturday in the UK. So that's not going to help. That's not going to help. It says, great news for Doctor Who's international fans who previously drew the short sonic screwdriver when it came to release times. I think we got them usually like a week later, if I'm trying to remember correctly, on BBC America. On the other hand, it continues the mistake of underestimating the importance of tradition among Doctor Who in the UK. When Doctor Who began with An Unearthly Child in 1963, it aired on Saturday evenings on BBC One, and it was there for decades. For the domestic viewership, Doctor Who and Saturday evenings go together like fish and chips. So when Chris Chibnall's era heralded a shift to Sundays, the move was a big slap in the face. Also, we moved off of Christmas and onto New Year's and some other things. But, they kept saying that, well, the live numbers aren't the good ones. The numbers we want are the iPlayer numbers. So then the Chibnall era doubled down with some festive fiddling, moving Doctor Who's Christmas specials to New Year. That's true. I don't think that's why it failed, though. It failed because it was a trash era. It really was. There were a couple of bright spots. I thought the Master, I actually liked him. I thought he was pretty good. But for the most part, it was a boring ass waste of time. It did not feel like Doctor Who. Well, Doctor Who season 14 is now returning to the familiar Saturday night slot. The fairly massive caveat of premiering via streaming at midnight again ignores the cultural value of Doctor Who as an institution. Okay, that's not the big issue for me. This is it. Russell T Davies already repeated a Chibnall mistake in Doctor Who's 60th. Breaking away from Doctor Who's usual TV slot is not the only problem for the show. They said, by far the most contentious story element from Chibnall's Doctor Who era was The Timeless Child, a sweeping lore change that rewrote the Doctor's timeline, created numerous plot holes, divided the fandom, and was never properly explained. Basically, The Timeless Child was the last Jedi of Doctor Who. I mean, I guess you could say the first blow was making the Doctor a woman for the first or 1500th time, but retconning the Doctor, that the Doctor started out as a little girl that was repeatedly killed so the Time Lords could steal his, theirs regeneration power was idiotic. No stakes. Doctor's basically immortal at this point. Russell T Davies' comeback was an opportunity for Doctor Who to move away from the murkiness surrounding the Timeless Child. Bashuti Gatwa's debut instead introduced Bi-Generation, a sweeping lore change that rewrote the Doctor's timeline, created numerous plot holes, divided the fandom, and was never properly explained. Yeah, it's stupid. It's stupid. Like, why? I don't even care. There are no stakes. The Doctor can't die. Before, it was interesting because it was like, yeah, Doctor's getting close to the end of his regeneration cycle, isn't he? Well, he's got to be a little more careful. He can't just, willy-nilly rush into danger because he can actually die. Well, no, that's not true. He just keeps coming back again and again and again and again, Doctor Who canon has always been malleable to the whims of the writers, but usually in ways that could be swept under the rug easily. The Eighth Doctor's comment about being half human, the Valeyard, why the Fourth Doctor's regeneration needed the Watcher. Both The Timeless Child and Bi-Generation, however, are fundamental rewrites that completely alter the past and future of Doctor Who. Now, it's possible this could be done to fix a lot of those things. It's possible that Valeyard was supposed to show up, I believe, between the 12th, is after the 11th or 12th generation. It's basically an evil version of the Doctor. It's possible that because of Bi-Generation, that's where he comes from, and they could fix it that way. It's possible that's where the Watcher comes from. It could be possible that the Watcher is, and again, this is kind of best case scenario, and I don't know if they're going to do this or not, but it's possible that they could use the Watcher to explain the Doctor kind of merging with his older incarnations to become one unified Doctor again. Maybe the Doctor was David Tennant's Doctor and he merges with the Fourth Doctor to generate the Fifth Doctor, who was David Tennant's favorite Doctor, and also he's married to Peter Davison's daughter. It makes sense. Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. But yeah, they said they're basically making the same mistakes. God, look at these ads. I cannot get rid of them, guys. I'm sorry. You can't. Screen Rant is just desperate. But basically, it's it's like Doctor Who is screwed at this point. There's no saving Doctor Who. They divide the fandom again, and I thought bringing David Tennant back was going to fix things, or at least attempt to heal wounds. And immediately, they lectured the audience. They said, well, if you were a woman there, David Tennant, you would understand. You would understand more, but now you're a dumb man again. And they basically brought David Tennant back to drag him. And a lot of people were pissed off about that. They wasted, I think, the opportunity. But the production values are good. I'll give them that, but I'm not going back. I'm not going back to Doctor Who, guys. I don't care. Again, you can only bait and switch people so many times before they just don't care. And even if you do legitimately, God, these ads, they're so annoying. Screen Rant, seriously, you have got to be desperate for cash because there are more ads than I got to get off of this page. But even if you have the best of intentions, once you hose people like that, they don't come back. They just don't come back. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.